NutritionNet.org podcast coming your way. This is number 347, another Q&A episode, guys. Remember, the odds are Q&As, the evens are compounds. Stevesmi and Rick checking in from the Hamptons. What's up, buddy? How's the weather out there?
Hey, what's up, Steve? What's up, guys? How's everybody doing out there? Hamptons, you know Hamptons, man.
All right, guys. So
here, I'm in Nassau County, Long Island.
You're in the Bronx. You're in Brooklyn. So we got 5 really, really cool topics. The first one is choosing the blast and cruise while you're in your late 20s, and a lot of guys are doing that. They don't, steroids are so easily accessible these days. They're so affordable these days. It's not like the old days where you need to, know someone who knew someone who knew someone to get steroids. Now you just go online, click of the mouse, just like ordering anything off of Amazon. It's so easy to get steroids on. So guys, they can't help themselves. They want to get steroids. They want to use them year round. I've seen some ridiculous amount of steroid abuse. I've seen some guys running steroids for years straight. So now a lot of guys like to do the blast and cruise. So a blast and cruise would be basically, a blast would be running a typical moderate to high steroid cycle. And then a cruise would be cruising at just a dosage, a low dosage, or a TRT dose. Although the cruises that I see, usually they run it twice with the TRT doses. So we're seeing this more and more now. Guys are choosing, just instead of running a cycle, doing a PCT, coming off, being patient, and then running another cycle, maybe one or 2 cycles a year at the most. Guys are just like, you know what, let me just blast and cruise year round because I don't want to do a PCT. I don't want to come off because I'm addicted to, the strength, the muscle gains and everything. And if I come off, I'm going to lose my strength. I'm going to lose my muscle, and I can't handle it because I got to improve in a linear fashion. So that's the basis for why guys are choosing the blast and cruise. Are you able to monetize bodybuilding? Are you able to monetize fitness? I am, Rick is, but it doesn't mean that I run steroids year round. It doesn't mean that I blast and cruise. I like to run maybe 1 or 2 cycles a year, cycle on, PCT, cycle off. That's what I want to do. And I'm almost in my 40s, so I'm not doing it. So why would someone in their late 20s want to do it, especially if you're not even monetizing it, especially if you're not making a living through bodybuilding or through fitness? I don't see the point, because the dangers of blasting and cruising in your late 20s is there's a good chance that you'll need to go on TRT the rest of your life. You'll completely ruin your reproductive system. You won't be able to have children. There's going to be a girl when you get older who you end up falling in love with and marrying, and you're going to try to get her pregnant, and you're not going to be able to because you screwed up your reproductive system because you don't have any sperm that are motile that can actually connect with an egg. So she's going to get pissed at you. She's going to get frustrated. So you guys got to think about this long term. So I don't like to hear guys in their 20s or even 30s who choose to blast and cruise. I think it's absurd. But at the end of the day, look, it's your decision what you want to do. Just at the very least, learn about the dangers of doing this and what's going to happen, and listen to some of these other guys who actually made that same mistake. My old podcast host did that at a very young age, and he ended up, now he's on thyroid medications, TRT, all this stuff for the rest of his life that he's got to take. You got to be basically a slave to hormones and a slave to drugs. So over the long term, cycling is going to be more healthy and beneficial than blasting and cruising and then just going on TRT. That's the facts. I'm giving you the facts on that. So you can choose to do what you want, but that's my little lecture for you. Nobody wants to hear, me tell them what to do. It's like, fuck you. Don't tell me what to do. It's my body. All right, do it. I'm just warning you of what can potentially happen. What's your thoughts on this, Rick?
When you're that young, when you are in your late 20s, you really want to focus much more on the training, the diet, getting to know your body, getting to know your muscles, getting to know yourself mentally. Um, and as far as steroids, like just do as little as you can actually do for where you need to get. If you're trying to be a competitor, you've got a coach and you've got a whole plan on competition. I can see that. Then you've got a different path. But for most of us that are just trying to look good, um, there's no reason for all of this blast and cruise. You're basically putting yourself sort of on testosterone replacement therapy at that point, or I should say, on androgen replacement therapy at that point. If you're because you're going to be doing something all the time, I suggest maybe run a couple of short cycles per year. Maybe one cycle per year might be all you really need, and then the rest of the time, stay looking lean and nice, just with diet, good training, and some over-the-counter supplements, some over-the-counter stuff. There's good stuff out there you can take, but mess as little as you can with your endocrine system. Put as little amounts of synthetic compounds into your body that you need in order to achieve the look that you're going for, and be realistic about what you want and why you want it. How shredded do you want to look? How big do you want to look, and for what? I think there are a lot of guys out there that are like pumping trembolone and doing these big cycles, 12 weeks and stuff, and going hard, and they just want to be big ass Bob at the office, just looking brolic, just going in and out of a regular ass job every day. If you're trying to compete, if it's part of your persona for whatever reason, if it's part of who you are for whatever reason, this fitness grind, then maybe I can see that somehow. But most people out there, most guys, just trying to look good for themselves and for wifey. You know, you don't need to put yourself through androgen replacement therapy, self-imposed basically on your own so early on. It's unnecessary. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, and I said it, at the beginning. So, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't even use steroids until you're at least 30. I wouldn't. I mean, I don't see the point in using them in your 20s. Your 20s should be about finding yourself, should be about educating yourself, building skills, saving money. That should be what you should do in your 20s. And then once you get into your 30s and you really feel like, yeah, I hit a plateau, then it's time to start using steroids. But the blast and cruise in your 20s, doesn't make any sense. To me, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's how it goes. And I think we're trending back in the other direction on this. I think a lot of guys are realizing how right I am on this. And we're kind of turning the other direction where guys are treating this a little more conservatively when it comes to their steroid use. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I think the people who are more aggressive with steroid abuse and stuff, they look like fools these days. They look like fools. And then guys like me who are stressing to do this the smart way, we look like geniuses. So I think over time it's trending in the right direction. So we're going to see a lot more, I think better physiques and healthier bodies, people living a little longer over time. But we'll see how it goes. So number 2, guys, can I use 2 different types of tests in the same cycle? By 2 different types of tests, I'm assuming he means esters. You have testosterone cypionate, you have enanthate, you have propionate, you've got decanate, you've got suspension, on and on and on. Different types of esters. There's sustanin and omnidron, which are ester blends. So can you mix and match them? Yeah, of course. That's what sustanin and omnidron are in the first place. They're basically steroid esters that are mixed. So you can do it that way. You can use one. At the end of the day, it just matters on the brand. If it's a good quality source, I think that's the most important thing. And That's what your main objective should be, because it makes a big difference if you're getting underdose steroids, overdose steroids, steroids that are bunk, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what you should be watching for. I wouldn't even worry about any of that. And then also what type of test you run absolutely matters, and what type of ester, because that determines how often you should inject. So if you're running a shorter ester, you got to inject more often. If you're running a longer ester, you have to inject more infrequently. If you're running an 8-week cycle, it would make more sense to run a shorter ester. If you're running if you're on TRT or you're blasting and cruising, like we talked about in the last subject, you want to run a longer esters. This way you only have to inject once a week or once every 10 days or once every 2 weeks even, if it's a really long ester. Rick, what do you think about it?
Yeah, you could run a couple esters, but I don't see a reason to. I mean, why? But just take one ester and stick to it. The only reason I see that you will run 2 esters if you're putting a cycle together from leftovers. So if you're putting a cycle together from leftover stuff, then yeah, okay. I see. I can see a reason to maybe go that route if you're putting a cycle together from leftover stuff. But if you're planning on buying your gear, no, just get one ester. What's the point? So that's it. I mean, that's all I have to say on it.
Pretty self-explanatory on that one. So the next one, guys, severe depression from steroid use. I actually wrote an article about this a while back. I'm gonna link it in the podcast notes. You guys can click on that. Those of you who are on YouTube, you want to check out on the website, because on YouTube there's not going to be a link for it. But it's a really good article. It has, I think, like 30,000 views or something already. And I think that, the thing is, if you already have depression going into steroids, the cliche is that your depression will probably get worse. And even if it doesn't get worse when you come off, there's a good chance it gets worse. So really fluctuating with your hormones isn't a good idea when it comes to if you have a mental issue like depression. So I'm going to bring in Rick early on this, because Rick, I believe, used to have depression issues when he was younger. So talk about it, Rick.
No depression, anxiety. Thank God I've never suffered from depression, anxiety mainly. Yeah, I mean, steroids affect, you have androgen receptors in your brain. We've said this on the podcast many times. Steroids will affect and will attach to androgen receptors in your brain. You have estrogen receptors in your brain, higher estrogen, methylestradiol, all these estrogens that are a byproduct of steroid use can also attach to these receptors. And it can cause some mental effects, or it could amplify, it could worsen some effects. So it's not something I see commonly being reported, but it could happen. Depression from steroids, yes. I have seen it reported before, obviously. And but it's not very common. I think there are a lot of people that have maybe some pre-existing depression issues that maybe gravitate towards fitness and bodybuilding as a way to maybe deal with, it's a good healthy way to deal with some issues. And along the way, they stumble onto steroids. They want to use juice, but they've got some pre-existing problems. They've got some stuff in the past. Again, maybe the thing that brought them over to fitness in the first place. And then they start messing with steroids, sometimes mixing them with some of their psych medications, which is not a good idea. And or you have someone who thinks they've gotten over depression issues, then they start using steroids and it triggers it again. So when we say on the podcast that you don't want to come into steroids with any pre-existing conditions, even mental health stuff, I mean, it's serious, it's legit.
One of the problems we have right now in society is the mental aspect of it. And we see people go to prison. I don't know what the stat is, Rick. What is it, like 50% of prisons are people who are mentally messed up? Something like that. It might even be higher. It might
Something
be like,
along those lines. Yeah.
I think it might even be like 70% or 80% even. But we tend to, in our society, there's no profit in mental health. There's no profit in it. So a lot of people get into, I know people who studied psychology and stuff like that in college. Even I dated a girl, she had a master's degree in psychology, and she worked as a waitress. And I asked her, I'm like, why do you have a master's degree in psychology and you work as a waitress? She's like, the money's too good. So that should tell you something right there. There's just no money in it. You can't get like mentally ill people and treat them and help them and make money at it, because mentally ill people don't have money. You have homeless people, homeless veterans who are mentally ill on the street. You run into them every day. If you go to any military town across America, you're driving through the town, you have people who are in the military. So they basically use them and they spit them out. And that's our society. And, you know, we put people in jail for having pot in their car. But these people who are doing insider trading and all this illegal stuff on Wall Street and making millions of dollars, when they get caught, we fine them $10,000 and that's it. So I mean, we have a screwed up society, and a lot of these mental issues are very treatable, very, very treatable. But it's the only way to profit from it is to put people on medication. So then they start getting on medication. So that's why I tell guys, like, before you use steroids, if you're on any type of medication, anything, could be for your heart health, could be a mental issue, anything you're on, you should wean off of it before running steroids. And that's hard to do for a lot of people, because if most people follow that, barely anyone would use steroids. So most people are on 4 or 5 different types of pills these days. And that's how it is. That's just a failure of society. So a lot of these mental issues, I really believe, can be treated with non-medical things. So once you get balance in your life, then you can kind of from there then transition into using anabolics from there. So try that. If you're on medication right now, any type of medication, see if you can wean off of it. See if you can wean off of it safely. And, I say that on forums. I had someone one time, like, they yelled at me, like, you're telling someone who's crazy to get off their medication. I'm like, well, I'm sorry that your butt hurt, but yeah, I am. I mean, I've been depressed before. I've been suicidal before. I don't go and take pills for it. I fucking get my ass up and come back. I've had tragedy in my life, financial tragedy, personal tragedy, broken hearts, all kinds of shit. I don't go take a pill for it, so you get over it. You got to just pick yourself up off the ground and move on. There's a lot worse situations out there than these things that people get depressed over, so just look around the world. Look at Africa. Look at some of these countries in Africa. People don't even have food. They don't have clothes. If you have a wardrobe, you're already richer than most of the world, because 1 billion people in the world live on $1 a day. So that's just the facts. I mean, it's just insane how we don't have perspective on things. So yeah, depression is definitely something guys can definitely do a way better job of fixing. Anything else to add, Rick?
Mental health, get a professional. You'll hear me say over the therapy over and over again. Get somebody you can go talk to, somebody who can help you identify destructive patterns of behavior in your life. And don't go in there as an open book, just, not without a plan. Don't just go in there winging it. Have a clear vision of what you're looking for and execute it. And go in there knowing what it is that you want help with, what it is that you want to work on, what themes are fucking things up in your life. Go in there and specifically ask for help, and he'll have experience, or she'll have experience helping other people get out of their circles of just not good behavior, and just get help. Every time you just go and get help. If you go and get help before things become a real problem.
All right, so the next one, this question, this was a woman, she contacted me. She says her husband has low libido for the past year. She got him some steroids because she thought the steroids would help him. She put him on test in DECA, and she says that his libido still has not improved even on the steroids. So I think I'm bringing Rick early on this one, but I think there's a couple things here you have to realize. Number one, that he may be getting his satisfaction from somewhere else. He could be getting satisfaction from another woman, from other women, from porn, from some other place. That's number one. Number two, if you guys don't have a good sex life together in a relationship, you know, something is wrong there. There's something wrong. The attraction could be gone. The, you know, there's just not a connection anymore. So you probably, you know, you're probably end up just having to go ahead and just get divorced and move on, because that's no way to live. You know, my rule in a relationship, and, you know, I've argued this with Rick a lot when we've talked about these relationship topics, but you have to, before you even start dating someone, is you have to have time in your life for them. If you're in a relationship, you're living with someone, you're married, whatever, you have to take 2 hours out of your week. Even, I don't care how busy you are. I don't care how many jobs you have. I don't care how much shit you have to do. Take 2 hours out of your week to just spend time with the other person intimately. You know, you have to do that. It's just like if you have a family, you have to sit down. Very, very important. Me growing up was always a holiday, Christmas. Always, you know, you always spent half a day with the family. I don't care how busy you are. You always spend half the day on Christmas with the family, opening up gifts, having lunch together, stuff like that. Always. And then for dinner time, very, very important. I don't care how busy you are. We are latchkey kids. Our generation, Rick and I generation, we're latchkey kids. Both our parents worked. We still took time to have dinner together. So it's the same thing in a relationship. You have to take time together once a week. If you can't do that, you should not be dating. You should not be in a relationship or a marriage, period. And then if you had done that a year ago, you wouldn't be in this situation now, because what happens is you build that habit of not spending time together intimately. That goes by after for 2 weeks, to 3 weeks, for 4 weeks, on and on and on. And then pretty soon it's a year. And then pretty soon it's 2 years. I knew a woman 8 years. She did not have sex with her husband. She did not have any type of sex for 8 years because her husband, for some reason, wasn't interested. I don't know. She gets divorced, and then she turns into a whore. She's like meeting guys off of apps, off dating websites. She's fucking different random guys. So there's definitely, it's not something that you can treat by throwing steroids at a person or throwing hormones at a person or whatever. It's definitely something where simply you don't have that connection anymore. And it's like you built that habit of not dedicating time for each other, and that doomed the relationship. What do you think, Rick?
So I'll take another approach to this. There's a lot of reasons why a guy can have low libido. It can happen for many, 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 many reasons. Maybe he loves you just fine. He's just stressed out at work, you know, being bullied at work. Maybe he's having internal problems. Just a bunch of reasons. So you can't jump to him not loving you or him not wanting to be with you or him having another woman, because sometimes libido just drops. And look, when a guy is cheating, you usually be able to tell. Women out there, you usually be able to tell. It will usually be a pretty easy way to tell. You know, when mistresses don't tend to get out of the way so easily. Guys got to go through hoops to get that mistress situation going. Men, when you could ask Steve, because he's been the other guy several times. Men, when you're the other guy, you cater to that lady. You set a schedule up. If the husband calls, you shut the fuck up. Make sure she can pick up that call, right, Steve? But see, with men, the dynamic is different. So most of us men will get caught cheating if the woman wants to really catch you.
You learn
She'll catch that.
you learn to hide in the closet when the husband comes home. That's the secret. Or under the bed, because the husband will never check the closet or under the bed.
You know, every joke that I know, the husband checks the closet and under the bed. But so there's a lot to explore there. I wouldn't jump to the end where this is over with and he's cheating and he doesn't love you. Nah, there could be a lot going on. Again, work, pressure from work, unhappiness in the workplace. You know, or maybe you've let yourself go a little bit too, and that's added in. I hate to put it on her, but sometimes both men and women we just stop caring about, and it's not the normal aging. It's not the normal getting older. I'm talking about just stop taking fucking care of yourself. And there are no excuses. Oh, I don't have time with this. No, you've got a few minutes to yourself to take care of yourself. So it's not maybe that the attraction is not there, but it's that some of that hotness and romance starts to go away when you see somebody who's not really taking care of themselves, taking good care of themselves. You know, there's attraction that comes with living and being next to someone, and you can see them taking care of themselves. You can see their grind. You can see their intention. That there's a good feeling that comes along with that. Wouldn't you agree, Steve?
Agree to. Like, what do you mean? Agree with what?
That the problem could be not that he doesn't love her, but that he's having other issues.
Right, but I mean, like if he was gay, he'd be fucking other guys. You see what I'm saying? So that kind of goes with what
I'm throwing that out there as a maybe, but I don't think that's probably not the problem. Nowadays, I like to think that nowadays, culture being what it is, the last 30 years at least, most men who are gay will just be gay and not ruin people's lives living in the closet. Like it's still a possibility.
That's not.
There are out there, but it shouldn't. I doubt. Out of all the possible things, I doubt that would be it.
I don't think that in these situations you can rescue the marriage. I don't think that there's anything, no magic bullet that he can take or that he can do or talking to him that's going to rescue this marriage. I don't think you can go from not having sex for a year to, we're going to start having sex regularly. I don't see that happen. I just don't see this ending well. And I don't think there's anything you can do. Like, they can literally both get divorced, move on, start dating new people, and start having regular sex. I don't think that's anything. Because I've been in these types of situations before. You just end up being with someone who's your roommate. It's not anything more than that. And, that's it. And it's not something long term. But what's weird in those situations, sometimes you'll break up and then you'll hook up later. And then it'll be great sex. But when you were together, living together, you couldn't stand even being around the other person.
That's interesting, Steve. That's an interesting look.
I think I've been in a situation before. I had an ex come and stay with me for the weekend, right? She came. I was so horny. We fucked like the first hour she got there. Then for the next 2 days, I literally wanted her to leave. I didn't want her to stay.
You're an animal, Steve.
It's not being an animal. I'm just
you're an animal, bro.
Why? Why am I an animal?
You used her and you ready to go, man.
No, she used me. I wasn't using her. Listen, in some situations, you do that, and the next day you like want the girl again. And in some situation, you do that, you don't want to see the person for a month. So why marry someone that is like that? You don't want to see them for a month. You can't stand being around them, but you want to find someone who you want to be, that you miss, that you think about all the time, that you're obsessed over. That's the person you want to be with. You don't want to be with someone you can't stand. So why marry someone in the first place? Well, society says you have to get married. Or maybe they were like that before, and then after they got married, things start tailing off. That's fine. So in that situation, just move on.
The way it should happen, guys, really, the way it should really happen is you fall in love and you enjoy sex more with the other person as the years go by. And it doesn't matter how they age, you still see them attractive. It doesn't matter what, you just see them as a sexier individual. You should enjoy sex with the person more and more and more as the years go by. You get used to having sex, you get used to pleasing each other, you get used to understanding how to please each other. In a perfect situation, in a good marriage, you shouldn't be getting tired of each other. It should, if anything, it should just get better and better as the years go by. And it doesn't matter, like I said, how age treats either of you, you still think you're hot. And that's a healthy relationship. And that's the way that I've seen good, healthy couples describe their relationships. In anything else, anything other than that, if you're thinking about straying, if you're not as attracted to each other anymore, if you're all these things, then it's usually not a healthy sign. The norm for a good, healthy relationship, my opinion, is you like each other, want to have more sex with each other, you get used to each other to the point where it wouldn't be as good. It would even be weird and cumbersome to try to have sex with someone else, someone new.
All right, so let's finish. Let's transition into the last one, leaving a toxic relationship. So finish up the show. We have 5 minutes left, Rick. Tell us about this one. So let's say, you exhausted everything and it's a toxic relationship from top to bottom. Finish up the show. Tell us tips for leaving a toxic relationship.
How do you leave a toxic relationship? Usually when there's toxicity in a relationship is because there's some kind of dependency on each other. It's only toxic if you're sitting there letting it be toxic. It's not toxic when you're willing to walk the fuck away. It sometimes they're kids and children and financial stuff at stake that complicates things. But for the most part, it's only toxic if you have some kind of codependency, some kind of weird dynamic where you feed off each other's misery in a way. So first step to leaving a toxic relationship is understand the dynamic of why it is you can't walk away. What it is that's keeping you from walking away. And once you understand that, then you can break everything else down. But just remember when it's toxic, it's only toxic because you're still there. Believe you me, and Steve knows, there are a lot of toxic relationships we could have had or we could be in right now, but we've walked the fuck away. So if it's toxic, it's because you're there. If you'd walked away, wouldn't even be talking about it right now. Wouldn't even be thinking about it. You have something else in mind. And identify why it is you can't walk away. Everybody's got a different chain binding them, a different rope holding them. You just got to figure out what yours is and cut it loose. But
sometimes it's not that easy though. If you
identify it, you got to identify what it is. It's not easy if you don't know why you're there.
If you share young children together, it's not that easy to leave because now you're punishing the kids too. And also if you're like you said, depending on the other person, like if the kids are having a worse time with you guys watching you guys go off. If it's toxic, it's even worse for the kids to watch it too. That's true. A lot of though, customary conservative people, they don't believe in raising kids. When
first step, go to couples counseling. Couples counseling. Go in there. Put your guard down. Go in there and try to work this thing out. And go in there knowing they're going to ask you the first day of couples counseling. They're going to ask you, why are you here? Why are you going through all this to try to work this out? You better have good reasons. You better have really good reasons why you You want to sit there and you want to work this out. And sometimes you might have nothing nice to say. Sometimes you might go in there and say, I generally hate our guts, but we have good sex. Sometimes it's great. But for the most part, we don't really get along. That's the start, you know. So or you might go in there and say, hey, I love her, she's great, but the sex is terrible. You whatever it is, but you go in there and try it out. And if you can't get anywhere with good couples counseling, going in there really trying to make it work, you're probably not going to go anywhere unless you get a shitty counselor, because there are shitty counselors out there. So you might want to give it a try with a couple different counselors, but you got to go in there with your guard down, willing to listen, willing to try. One of my I won't drop his name, but one of the guys that trained me in MMA later on, and more boxing and kickboxing, good guy. He's pretty well known. Him and I were having a conversation because I was going through my divorce thing while I was training with him. So I said, we're starting counseling next week, couples counseling next week. I said, what do you think about that? Because I asked this man a lot of different questions, and he's a funny guy. He goes, Rick, I've done it before. He goes, but do it right. Don't be like me. Go in there and really try. Really give it a try and try your best and listen and pay attention. I used to go in there and her and the counselor would be talking, and in my mind I'd be holding mitts for a guy or thinking about a guy's next fight. It's like, you really got to go in there and try. So you got to go in there and try, man. Try it, and if that doesn't work, then you need to figure out what ties you and get the fuck out. And if you got kids, the kids should be more of the reason to either work it out and make it nice, or get the fuck out so the kids don't see the worst of you. Because when you're in a toxic relationship, it brings out the worst of you, the worst of both of you, and that's what your kids see. So don't let your kids see the worst of you anymore. Either you fix this thing, and when it gets that toxic, you always need a professional to come in and help. Even if you guys go to church or something, that there's also help there. Couples retreats, there's all kinds of stuff for people that really want to work it out and really want to make it together. There's all kinds of things you can do. So just get out there and do it. Make the decision. That's it. What do you think, Steve?
What about situations where, you can't afford rent without the other person? She can't afford rent, you can't afford rent, or he can't afford rent. What do you do then? And you're living together or you could be in a contract. You could be leasing a place and be on 1 year contract. You're 6 months into it and you can't break your contract without paying a penalty. And now you got to go find another place. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes it's not easy to break up. Sometimes you're kind of get stuck together. You don't have that flexibility in some situations.
People that actually have these problems really wish it was all just about monetary. If it's monetary, you can figure that part out. And I don't have a really good offer to tell anybody if it's a monetary issue, because we all need money. We all need money always, all of us. So if it's a monetary issue that's keeping you there, then you just need money, and that'll solve everything. But a lot of times, Steve, is not so monetary. A lot of times we give ourselves other excuses. Oh, I can't afford it. Oh, the kids. Oh, the family, the influence, the job, whatever. But the real reason is you just don't want to leave this person. Either you have, like I said, maybe it's toxic, but it's great sex, or maybe you just don't want to see him with anybody else, or maybe you're just lonely and don't think anybody else will love you, or maybe I could just name reasons, many reasons, the rest of the podcast, of why people get into these vicious circles. So, what else can I add, man? Just gotta go.
All right, enough of these depressing topics, guys. If you want to stick with the podcast after the credits, we're going to have a couple jokes, stories, and we'll cheer you guys up. So sorry about this depressing podcast. I feel like crying right now. For Stevesmi, this has been another episode of Evolutionary Radio. This was episode 347 as we march to 400. Have a good one, guys.
You really got depressed, Steve? I thought these were just funny ass topics. It hit home somewhere, didn't it, Steve?
Huh? I miss my ex. This makes me miss my ex.
That's what it is. No, I thought it was a fun topic. Listen, if you're not going through this, but you know somebody who might be, it's fun to listen to. It's only bad if you're going through it.
So, guys, if you know anybody who's going through this, please contact 1-800 blah, 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 blah.
All right, Mr. 1-800. So we got jokes after the podcast, right?
Yep.
All right. So you wanna set it up? You wanna say goodbye?
Yeah. So guys, goodbye again. I already said goodbye, but
you already said goodbye?
Yeah. Have a good one, guys.
Like it. Anyway, so have a good one, Steve. Have a good one, guys.
Guys, this is the required legal disclaimer. We are only sharing our experience from years of steroid use. We are not doctors, and none of what we say should be regarded as medical advice. Always check with your doctor before taking any drugs or starting any training program.
All right, that's it, man. So we're doing jokes?
Yeah, you want to go first? Or you want me to go? I have a story.
No,
mother-in-law.
Huh? You go first. You hit the story. I love your stories. Go ahead.
You like them? All right, so I have a mother-in-law.
You've got the greatest stories, bro. Go ahead.
So you guys, we haven't done any mother-in-law jokes, but I have a mother-in-law story. This happened to me. So a few years ago, I was dating a girl. She's up from where you're from, Rick, up in the Hamptons, and her mom's family is from Brooklyn, so she's got like an accent, New York accent. So anyway, she was coming down for a visit. I had met her like once or twice before, like on the holidays, like for like a half a day or something. So I didn't really know the lady like too well. She was a little nutty. So she's coming down. Her flight was arriving at 4:00 from LaGuardia up there in LaGuardia, your airport up there. And I was gonna go pick her up because my girlfriend, she didn't get off work at 6, so I got stuck, picking her up. So I had to go pick up the mother-in-law from the airport. So I get there, I pick her up, I wave to her, I'm parked out front. She's like, hey, it's me. So she looks at me and she looks away, and then she starts walking towards me. And she's like, where's my daughter? And I'm like, ma'am, your daughter, she doesn't get off work at 6, but we're going to go. I'm going to take you to have a nice bite to eat. I'm sure you're hungry. It was a long flight, 3-hour flight from New York. And, we'll go have a bite to eat. So we go. I'm like, what do you want to eat? She's like, anything Italian. I only eat Italian food. So I'm like, all right, I'll take you to Italian. From New York, of course, you like Italian food. So I take her to the Italian restaurant. We get in there. We sit down. This is a great like pizza, like a little mom and pop pizza place. So I'm like, what do you want to eat? She's like, pizza pie. Get me a pizza pie. So I order a pizza. They bring out the pizza, and like as soon as it hits the table, she like looks at it with her eyes big. She's getting pissed. She's like, you call this New York pizza? This isn't New York pizza. Get this shit out of here. She's like making a scene, like going crazy. And I'm like, oh my God, I got my head like in my hands. I'm like, oh my God, she's embarrassing me. I'm like a regular at this place. I'm like, I can never come here again. She's like, she calls the waiter over. She's like, this isn't New York style pizza. Look at this. It's not supposed to be like this. Blah, blah. I'm like, I told the guy, I'm like, dude, I'm sorry about this. Just box it up and we'll, I'll take it home. No problem. So we get to the house. We walk in there. And she's like, where's my room? And I'm like, all right, so here's your room here. Here's your bathroom. So she walks across the house. She walks into the master bedroom. She walks in the master bathroom. She's like, this is the bathroom I want. It's got a big tub. And I'm like, all right, fine. You can use the bathroom. I'll use the guest bathroom. You can use the master bathroom. I don't care. So then like the next day I get up in the morning, I'm going to, shave like I always do in the morning. I walk in there and I see her standing on top of the toilet, peeing in the fucking toilet, standing up. And I'm like, oh my God. So I walk out and I go to tell my girl, I'm like, did you know your mom pees while standing up? And she's like, why are you looking? And I'm like, what are you, crazy? You think I want to see that shit? I don't want to see that shit. You kidding me? It was an accident. I was in there to get my razors. So then, like, after, she leaves and stuff, I go back, I sneak into the master bathroom, and I see, like, little hairs, like, on the toilet. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Why is there fucking little hairs all over the toilet? So I don't know. I grab my razors, I go, right? I'm like, I'm going to shave in the other fucking bathroom. So then, like, a couple days later, I'm sitting at home with her mom, and my girlfriend comes home from work, 6 o'clock. She comes in the room and she walks up to me and she just clocks me right in the face. So I fall on the ground. I get up. I'm like, what the fuck is your problem? She's like, you motherfucker, you've been cheating on me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I haven't cheated. And she's like, I just came from the doctor. He told me I got crabs. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, how could you have crabs? I don't have crabs. How the fuck do you have crabs? You've been cheating on me. I'm not the one cheating on you. You've been cheating on me. So, I'm like, you cheating on the guys down the street, haven't you? So the mom walks in. The mom's like, what the fuck is going on here? What are you arguing about? And I'm like, your daughter's been cheating on me. She's got crabs. So the mom, like, goes into the bedroom. She gets her suitcase. She brings it outside. She drops on the floor. She opens it up. And she pulls out, like, this medication for crabs. So it turned out the mom had crabs. She used the toilet. She was shaving on top of the toilet. It got on the toilet, and then my girlfriend used the toilet and got crabs. So then I got blamed for cheating on her. So all along, the mom was the one who had crabs. So that's the story.
That's a crazy fucking story, Steve.
You like it? You like the accent?
I thought the accent was the worst part about the story.
LaGuardia. Can you say LaGuardia?
La Guardia.
No, say it with a New York accent. Come on. LaGuardia.
La Guardia. This is my New York accent. That's the great thing about the New York accent. Everybody has their own.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Tell us. Give us your joke for the day.
All right. So a guy and his horse walk into a bar in New York. And when they get up to the bar, the bartender looks at the horse and says, hey, buddy, why the long face? That's it.
That's pretty good. That's a quick and to the point. I like it.
Yeah, it's a good joke, man. I had to do a short one today with your long story. Is this a real story, Steve? The girlfriend that crabs?
You should tell them the story about the La Llorona, about when you're a kid and the La Llorona made love to you by the riverbank at night. You should tell that story.
Is that what La Llorona is supposed to do? Make love to you by the bank road? Doesn't sound too bad, actually.
The La Llorona.
La Llorona.
All right, guys.
All
right, guys. So we hope
you like scary stories, huh?
I have some stuff. That wasn't a scary story, bro. These stories are true, bro. These are true stories.
Yeah. You want me to tell you like a halfway kind of weird scary story that happened right in your neck of the woods in South Florida?
Do you want to do it now, or do you want to save it for the next one?
It's a quick story. It's all the way at the end of the podcast. I don't think.
All right,
we'll have a lot of people.
Hit it, and then we'll finish up. Yeah.
So this is a folklore story that you have to have been around South America to hear about this, and in the right place to hear about this. So this is like around the late 80s. There was a guy, a cocaine dealer in Miami, Colombian guy. They had him held up in a hotel. They had him pretty well surrounded, and there was kind of no escape, no way to get out. And he kind of knew it. They were waiting their time. The cops had him up there, and he was armed. So were they. So it was a bit of a standoff, but it was like a pretty cold standoff. And he called up reinforcements, and they sent a brujo, this guy who practiced brujeria, to go in there and get him. And the guy's sitting in his hotel room, Cops are outside. Oh, they're all armed, waiting for him to come out. Eventually, he's got to come out of there. And while he's sitting in there, he hears a knock on the door. And he says, "Who's this?" And he says, "It's El Brujo." So El Brujo comes in. He's got his bag. Guy can't believe the Brujo made it in there, because cops are like, nobody gets in or out. And then El Brujo brings out his stuff, feathers, smoke, does his whole song dance, and tells the guy, "Okay, now look at me in my eyes." He says, "Okay, now I'm going to turn around. You're going to put your hands on my shoulders. And we're going to walk out of here. You're just going to keep following me." And he says, "And do not look anyone in their eyes. Do not look anyone in the face as we leave out of here. Okay? Or you'll fuck everything up." Guy goes, "All right." So guy puts his hands on the back of Brujo's shoulder. Brujo starts walking out. Guy starts walking out behind Brujo with his gaze down. They walk right in between cop cars and cops standing outside drinking coffee, donuts and shit, armed. Walk right in between all of them. And then a few blocks down, then they somebody picked them up and they left. That's a real story. happened in South Florida.
Oh yeah.
The 80s.
Huh.
Yeah, they thought they had their man, and there it was like he just vanished, was gone.
That's a good one, bro. Yeah, I like those types of stories. I like that supernatural stuff. So, all right, guys. We'll hope you enjoyed the podcast and our joke stories. We'll have more on the next one. I'll have to come up with another story. So, all right, guys. Talk to you guys next week.
Have a good one, Steve. Have a good one, guys.